Welcome into Jungle Tales, a Pirate Baseball podcast. On deck for East Carolina is the Conway Regional. We've already previewed the Florida Gators. We did so earlier today, and right now I'm very excited to be joined by Joe CATENACCI, the play-by-play voice of the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers. Joe Cats, welcome to the show.
Hey, boys, how we doing tonight?
Doing great. Really appreciate the time. Very excited about this weekend's regional down at Springbrook Stadium in Conway. This is the sixth time the Chanticleers have hosted. I was able to attend a regional there, prior to Springbrook Stadium way back in 2008. So we'll probably take a trip down memory lane. So diving in to this regional, and just how are the ticket sales going, and just tell us about the excitement there in Conway.
I mean, there's a lot of excitement building it, and it's been really over the last 2 years. In terms of the success of the baseball program dates beyond just the last 2 years for sure. But I want to say that through the last year of Coach Gilmore, obviously a lot of excitement and reminiscing about what was and what was built, and the foundation plus the first floor of the home in Conway at Springbrook Stadium, kind of the house that Gilmore built. There's no doubt about it. And you started to, really feel that there was a sense around the area that more and more people were becoming more familiar, despite the rich history over the last, 20 plus years since, Coach Gilly was around. That last year, it seemed like, everyone and anyone who was involved or who had, been a part or played a small role in one ticket for maybe one game in 30 years showed up that day, and that throughout the course of that season. And then Coach Knoll was the guy waiting in wings, he's hit the ground running. Obviously we've got some new leadership at the top of our administration over at Coastal Carolina, so given the sort of new feel that we've got, it was and has been a seamless transition in terms of obviously what goes on outside the lines. And I think that because of that, given the pedigree that Coach Knoll had set over the years as a highly sought after assistant coach, and for him to stay here as a result of him attending Coastal and falling in love with this place so many years ago, that we just hit the ground running in terms of bringing some old coaches back that had left us for one reason or the other over the last several years. Having been the play-by-play guy on the radio side since 2017, bringing some of the guys back from 2017, 2018 to play in different roles to now serve in leadership roles within our program has definitely played dividends in continuing the standard, and obviously maybe even stepping it up a notch. To be a top 16 seed in the first year of a new head coach is obviously a huge accomplishment, and to be able to do that in a conference where you've got one other team that is also hosting among the top 16 in the nation, I think it speaks volumes, obviously, for Coach Knoll, his staff, and the ability for our program to just take that next step, without getting tripped up at all. And a lot of that has to do with having good players and good people around the program and up and down in terms of our personnel. And it goes all the way down to the way just we conduct business, from our team managers all the way up to the top.
So, Joe, before we dive, fully into this Conway Regional, you talk about the success on this season in Kevin Schnall's first year, with him being an alum, just like Cliff Godwin taking over for Coach Gilmore, who had so much success down through the years. 48-11, 26-4 in the Sun Belt, regular season and conference tournament champions, and 24-3 there at Springbrook Stadium. Just an unbelievable first season for Coach Schnall. And, two of those 48 victories came at the hands of East Carolina. Back in March, East Carolina was a 7-0 winner in the series opener, striking out 22 Chanticleers, but the Chants bounced back in a big way, winning 9-1 in Game 2, and then won a 4-3 thriller in 10 innings in the series finale. That was a heck of a series in Greenville, where this infamous selfie before you talk about the baseball. What are your memories of this selfie here? Is definitely not the most famous selfie taken that weekend.
Well, I mean, with that was one heck of a weekend in Greenville. You all know how to throw a party, and we just indulged and enjoyed our surroundings in Greenville. And given the fact that we were up that way, not just a few years ago, with the NCAA regional, along with Virginia, which I had the opportunity to experience, which was awesome. Actually, I have a great story about the Virginia East Carolina, winners bracket game. That Saturday night, a few of my buddies drove up from Wilmington and couldn't get into the stadium, obviously, because it was sold out. So they greased the palms of one of the vendors who let them in the side gate to get them into the ballpark. So that's how much fun that campus can be, that ballpark can be, and how people from all over want to come and take a peek at great college baseball. It's just amazing to see here on the coast. Obviously throughout the Carolinas, you got such great college baseball, in the ACC and the SEC, and for East Carolina, Coastal Carolina, and throwing UNCW in between. Obviously these are credible, staples, in terms of competition, in terms of the ability to, potentially one day for you Pirate guys in Pirate Nation to make that next step. Obviously, every year you've got a chance, and obviously that Norby on that Friday night, if he can show up whenever he's determined to, whenever he gets that slot coming up this weekend, and if he could do anything, of the sort that he did that Friday night against us, you're going to be in a good position, whether it be that game one against Florida, or if you've whatever reason would save them for Saturday afternoon or evening. So just amazing to see the success over the years of these programs up and down the coast that you would consider mid-major. I don't consider these programs mid-major programs. They can compete with anyone in the nation, and year after year we prove it.
Yeah, that's, Joe, something that really gets in the crawl of Pirate fans, to say the least, and that is for instance, this year D1 baseball, and I love the content that D1 baseball produces.
Sure.
We've had Aaron Fitt and Mike Rooney on the show multiple times, but I cannot stand that they have a D1 baseball account specifically devoted to the quote mid-majors.
Yeah, I mean, well, and it goes up and down in terms of some of that, middle of the pack, in the American and the Sun Belt, teams that'll make runs every now and then. But I mean, there are maybe a handful, maybe a half dozen, or even a dozen across the country, so-called mid-major type programs that got a chance to make it to Omaha every year. And obviously we are two of those programs. You throw in a Southern Miss, obviously, and what they've been able to do over the last several years in the Sun Belt Conference, and you got great competition. But as it relates to the two co-eds, obviously, who I'm pictured with in my photo here tonight, so out in Greenville, obviously, well, I think it was the Friday evening game, I guess. And at that point, it was still March. So we played those Friday evening games an hour earlier than we typically would, or it might have been the Saturday game. I can't actually recall. But nonetheless, obviously, the two ladies are hanging out watching their boys play baseball, and they get internet famous real quick. So obviously, the broadcaster and brander that I am had to take advantage of this, and knowing that there were people associated with the program, players that knew the girls. I'm like, well, we got to get them girls up in the booth the next day, and to see how that all played out and what it's been like for them. And honestly, I mean, they never admitted to what they were quote unquote accused of, their rear end selfies. But it's better than, I guess, taking a rear end selfie at a ball game than taking a rear end selfie in the bathroom with the John behind you, like most of the girls do these days, with the puckered lips on the, the big mirror there in the bathroom with all their girls.
Yeah. Pictures can be misleading, right? And it's all about the perspective of the viewer. So, but what you said about gaining admission to the stadium, that kind of triggered some memories, excuse me, of the 2022 Super Regional against Texas, and those attendance numbers were announced. I think 5,700, 5,800, somewhere in that ballpark, and any Pirate fan in attendance, like with the way the jungle, you couldn't hardly move. there was more than 5,800 there. It was probably more like 7,500.
I'm going to tell you right now that whatever can be fit into that ballpark in Conway this upcoming weekend will be fit. That's pretty much what I've been told. A little bit different setup and semantics in terms of the way you're able to get into the jungle there, through the back gate kind of and work your way out that way. But we've got that boardwalk, and I would not be surprised if from the Adirondack chairs above the wall all the way to the back of the ballpark will be bumper to bumper, no doubt, weekend long. So really looking forward to this weekend. I mean, you look at the regional and it is what it is. You want to match up with this guy, whomever. But to see East Carolina, Florida, and Coastal, and Fairfield team that's won 39 games this year from Connecticut as well, given the Northeast influx that we have at Coastal Carolina, the amount of people from Connecticut and the North, as I said, as we were just talking off the air about some people that are very familiar with those areas of the country and live here or work here and have family here, whatever it might be. I mean, I would not be surprised, like you said, 7,000 rather up at Clark LeClaire. I would think that we might be close to that inside and outside that ballpark all weekend.
As we shift to this weekend's regional and hone in on the Chanticleers, as I mentioned, 48-11. I want to bring in my co-host tonight, Johnny Robertson, better known as Johnny Stats, because I know you've really had the chance to prepare, some material regarding Coastal. And JR, what do you have for us?
Well, I appreciate it, Bob. And it's exciting to be on with you, Joe Katz, for sure. I'll keep it brief. Actually, Coastal is so impressive. I don't have enough time to go over all the favorable stats, but just looking at what I've discovered, the first 50 games, Coastal was batting 280, and then in the last 9 games, they're batting 338. Colby's batting 452, and Caden is batting 409. So I don't know what happened after that first ULM game, but the pitching seemed to improve. The batting seemed to improve. You're 17 out of your last 18 stolen base attempts. It's crazy. As far as Jacob Morrison's concerned, I mean, he already was third nationally, in ERA, but in the last 6 starts, he's got a 1.18 ERA, 0.68 WHIP, and he is averaging 6.1 innings per start. I mean, those are ridiculous numbers. I don't know what's happened down there, but do you have any answers for why the last 9 games have been such a?
Oh, for lack of a better phrase, Johnny Stats, it's been unheard of, at least in the 9 years that I've been at Coastal Carolina, just in terms of what our pitching staff has done top to bottom all year long. Couple that with a lineup that has had different pieces sprinkled throughout all season long. We hit a stride through those first 50 games, actually, with some of the regulars, and then some of those regulars got hurt in the back end of the year, and we did not miss a beat. 3 starters, our center fielder, our shortstop, and our DH all go down relatively the same time, and backups, come in. And the thing is, we replaced them with backups that weren't freshmen or did not have inexperience or guys that hadn't had a lot of playing time. I mean, the kid Chad Bourne, who came in as our DH for Domenico Tazzi 2 years ago, had a 300 batting average for us and played almost every game in the up through the regional up in Greenville. Actually, that was 3 years ago. So, I mean, Ty Dooley, our shortstop, goes down. Ty Barango was our backup shortstop last year. Decided that he was going to try and take some work at first base towards the middle of this season, just to get himself some at bats and some opportunities as a defensive replacement late in the year. And he ends up as our shortstop now. Had like 6-7 hits in the final series of the season against Old Dominion, and came up big time at shortstop for us defensively and at the plate during the Sun Belt Championship. And then defensively out in right field, Blake Pato fills in for Dean Mijos, our center fielder. Our right fielder goes to center. Our right fielder happened to play at the Citadel for the last 4 years, Wells Sykes, and played center field his whole college career, so didn't really miss a beat defensively. Pato, obviously, you guys remember him from the top of the 10th in Game 3 of our series on that Sunday afternoon. He hit that pinch hit, game-winning home run for us too. And he's had some big home runs. Hit a home run at Clemson, a grand slam at JMU, a grand slam against Appalachian State. So every guy up and down the lineup, but their numbers might not glare out in terms of comparisons to other players within our conference or across the country, but collectively, we've got one of the most complete teams all year. We're missing a little in terms of the slug and the power numbers, but altogether, I mean, these guys believe in each other, and really looking forward to seeing them compete, especially at their home ballpark. They earned this relatively outside of Bodine and Barthel. We've got an entire pitching staff. Eichhoff, I guess you could be the exception as well. Fluky is sophomore. Morrison coming back from Tommy John. Outside of, as I said, Barthel and Bodine, all these guys were unproven and essentially unheard of last year for one reason or the other, and they all stepped up this season to put up a 48-win season, Sun Belt regular season, and conference champs, and feeling real confident about where we're at, and not to be braggadocious or anything about it. These guys are very businesslike in the way they approach the game, and it's been fun to watch. And I'm really looking forward to seeing them compete against an improved and hot ECU team. Obviously, a Florida team that was down in the dumps early in the SEC, and they've come around and they're believing in each other. I mean, this has the makeup to be an epic weekend, no doubt, in terms of regional history and just the back and forth, the competition that we're about to see.
Yeah, I had one question and then just a few notes on Fairfield. Dean Mijos was very effective in Greenville, especially game 2. But I noticed that after the JMU series, he has not had a plate appearance. I saw him lately. He's been a pinch runner a couple of times. What's his situation?
Got hit in the hand with a bunt Sunday at JMU. Busted a bone in his hand and has been out ever since. So as I said, Pato went to right and Sykes went from right to center. And he's just been able to starting to get some swings in now. He's been cleared to run the bases, as you said. Made a couple of appearances in the back end of the Sun Belt tournament, and I would expect him to probably be in that position, no doubt, through this weekend. And I don't know what the status would be for him beyond that if we were to get there. And on top of that, then you're missing a whole month of the season, essentially in the back end at the most important time, you could argue, and definitely is in terms of wins and where it's done. So it becomes a very interesting decision. It's the same with our everyday shortstop Ty Dooley. He goes down. Ty Barango steps in. Barango, no doubt, equally as solid defensively, but the numbers and with the left-handed bat for Dooley, he's a different weapon in the lineup, and he's had trouble, left to right laterally, and he looks like he's ready to go. He's been taking batting practice. He's been doing all the pregame, workouts and getting prepared to play. His name just hasn't found itself to the lineup card yet, and interesting to see how coach works that in this week, if he does it all in terms of a pinch hit, maybe an opportunity, to get an at bat late in the game in a specific matchup, and it wouldn't necessarily be to replace Barango. So I don't know necessarily how coach works that in right now, and I think that's one of the questions I would say that we probably have this week. There are a few questions, that will be one of them. Okay,
thank you very much for answering that. Just a few notes on Fairfield. I feel like they're one of the better 4 seeds, but I also feel like you guys match up really well with them. They're 3rd in the nation in walks drawn, but you guys don't give up a lot of walks. And then, they've stolen 95 bases, but none of them were against Caden Bodine, obviously. But on their behalf, they batted .364 in their conference tournament, and they had 23 of their 56 games. They scored double-digit runs in, and they're the only team in the field that has never been shut out. All the other 3 teams have all been shut out at least 3 times. So they're not going to be an easy out, but I do feel like you match up well with them.
I think the reality of it is, when you get to this time of the year, despite the fact that we dominated on the weekends with our starting rotation, as you noted some of the numbers earlier for Morrison, and Fluky equally as impressive. And, maybe next season, if he's still with us, because there's going to be some big money thrown his way, or at least offered to him after this year, because he's got one more year before he's draft eligible. And, I think we all have an understanding, even with the success that we've had, even with the talent that we have, that as we get deeper into the postseason, you get into the regionals, you've got teams top to bottom, 1 through 9, that are going to be able to, grind out at bats and fight and battle against you and try and create, a situation where they can get into the bullpen, or they can, tick up the pitch count early in ball games. So, that's not, like I said, not a concern, but just something that multiple days throughout the course of a long weekend, we haven't necessarily had 1 through 9. A few times this year we've had those big series where that has come to play. I think of the early series, the neutral site in Jacksonville, when we got Alabama and NC State in back-to-back games, or 2 out of 3 with Ohio State sandwiched in between, going up to Greenville to take on you guys, and then the Troy series down in Alabama, the only series and weekend that we lost this entire season. So I think this point of the year, not to say that it won't happen, but the likelihood of allowing 3 earned runs over the course of 27 innings, is slim to none, I would say, when you get to this point of the year. So again, it just goes back to that business-like mindset. Our guys all year individually have understood their role, especially our pitchers, especially our starting rotation, and they've done an incredible job in getting themselves prepared to be in the best position they can be when it comes their opportunity and their day to toe the rubber. So I would expect nothing less. I would think that the one thing that we've probably got most in our favor come Friday against Fairfield in particular is that it'll be the first time Fairfield plays in front of 6,000 fans that are all cheering against them in one way, shape, or form. Come Friday night at 6 o'clock, our people are going to be primed. Obviously, we got Florida and East Carolina as the appetizer. Obviously, 2 great schools and fan bases that are going to amp it up, with their antics prior to first pitch. So, it's going to be an incredible atmosphere. There's no doubt about it, and that would be the one thing that I think would potentially get to Fairfield maybe early, which could allow us, to strike early and then, sustain that as we have when we've been able to get the lead all year long.
Joe, one of the staples of Coastal Carolina baseball and the way they've liked to play offense down through the years is the running game. Coach Gilmore's teams, you mentioned the power numbers being down, and I know early in the season, as it pertains to stolen bases, and granted it was 3 or 4 weeks into the season when the Pirates and Shots played, but not many stolen bases up to that point. You finished the year with 97 up to this point, and you got at least 4 or 5 guys with 10 plus, including Sebastian Alexander, who has 25. If you would address the Chanticleer's running game a little.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, there's no one that works on base running as much as Coastal Carolina baseball and Coach Schnall, and obviously having a front seat to that. I can't speak for other programs. I can speak about ours, and there's no question that the emphasis on base running, dirt reads, good secondary reads, get that extra 90, and to earn your freeze. If you look at, obviously some of our numbers, we've got we're tops in the country in hitters that have been hit by pitch, and we stand our ground. You want to pitch inside, and we're on the plate. Well, and I don't even know if we're necessarily on the plate. Look at the videotape, as some people argue. You want to pitch inside, we're going to take it, and we're going to go to first base. It's been scary at times because we've had guys like Caden Bodine get hit in the wrist and the hands late in the season, and it gives you a little white knuckled moment, but that's part of the makeup of who we are, and getting guys on, getting guys over, running up pitch counts, grinding out at bats is what has made us successful this year at the plate. As we all noted, the slug numbers are down as compared to previous years when we've made runs where the power numbers have been sort of our bread and butter. This year, we're just a team that's going to grind it out. I won't say that we have superstars. I think that's still to come in terms of their talent and their ceiling. Caden Bodine obviously comes to mention along with some of our pitchers, but we've got a bunch of great baseball players that turns into just a quality ball club and gives you all the confidence in the world that no matter who's at the plate, who's on the mound, whatever the situation may be, that our coaches have put those guys to be in the best position to succeed. I mean, it's always second guessing in the world that we live in, and picking and choosing and what could be. I swear to you, we've played 59 games this year in terms of our pitching coach, Matt Williams, who I actually was at UNCW with, doing their work as assisting Mike Vaccaro in the play-by-play back in the day. Coach Williams is the pitching coach. There's been one time, in almost 5 years of knowing that guy where I've disagreed with a pitching move that he's made for one reason or the other, and I think that just is a testament to the belief that our guys have and the success that we've enjoyed this year.
Johnny referenced the success of the starting rotation. Jacob Morrison 11-0, a 1.90 ERA. Cameron Flukie 6-1, 3.16 earned run average. Riley Eichhoff 6-2 with a 3.19. But I wanted to hone in on the bullpen. You mentioned Dominic Carbone and Ryan Lynch. Very impressive numbers, 22 and 24 appearances respectively, and they are 2 of 7 guys with 16 plus appearances. So the Shots have definitely more pitching depth than the Pirates have had at their disposal this year. ECU right now really 6, 7, maybe 8 guys, but those 2 guys, Carbone and Lynch, have combined for 11 saves. Speak about what has led to their success.
Matchups, so lefty, righty, the splits, the confidence that both of those guys have continued to build throughout the course of the year. And they're not, as you mentioned, the only 2 people that obviously we've utilized throughout the course of the season. And, frankly, because our pitching rotation, our weekend rotation, and even Luke Jones, you can throw in the mix as our midweek guy. And obviously he made his first career start against East Carolina on that Friday. No one was going to beat Norby that day, and no matter how well he pitched, it was going to impact that game. But that was his first career start. I mean, Jones, as a freshman, made 2 starts against Clemson, one against East Carolina on the road, one at Clemson, second home game against Clemson. I mean, so we've got young guys that have, were literally, dove right into all this, and because of the fact that the weekend rotation has been so successful, there's been limited innings for our bullpen guys. So that bodes well for us here on the back end, because in the event that one of our guys, doesn't have the start that we've been accustomed to seeing this year, which could potentially and tends to happen and will eventually happen. I mean, the numbers, as you highlight and you look down, up and down, you're like, this is just, like a video game numbers in some aspects. And the walks in particular versus the strikeouts, the ERA, which has a lot to do with the fact that we're the best fielding team in the Sun Belt Conference this year. So our fielding percentage obviously is above the 14 team, the other 13 of the conference. And that's also, I think, a huge, notch on the belt, because of the fact that we play on natural grass as compared to the rest of the conference that plays on synthetic turf for all year long. So that is also a huge testament to everyone up and down. As I said, the grounds crew and everyone involved, to have the best fielding team in a 14-team conference. That I would, and I don't know right off the top of my head, but I would say that maybe 10 teams out of the 14 teams in the conference play on synthetic turf. And, we top out fielding percentage. That plays into, obviously, the ERA and what our starting pitching staff has done. So you mix in, Lynch and Carbone on the back end. I think Lynch has started to kind of earn the closer sort of role, with Carbone being that 7th and 8th inning type guy. But Scotty Doran, Hayden Johnson is 6'5", 200, 25-pound left-hander that throws 95 miles an hour. That is right next to Carbone, who mixes in the sinker and the slider as good as anyone in the lefty-lefty matchup. Scotty Doran, a right-hander that has a great curveball, also a freshman that did not have the greatest week that was, but I don't think that takes away from the confidence and the success he's had. So as we've highlighted, those are 4 guys right off the top of my head. And then you can go a little bit further. Darren Horn, 3 years ago, was one of the team leaders in appearances, out last year with Tommy John surgery, but back, and sinker slider type guy, 90 to 93. I mean, we can attack you from kind of all angles in the bullpen. And really, we haven't had to mix and match maybe the way we're equipped to do. So I'm, again, just interested to see how that kind of plays out and what that looks like for our coaching staff when you have the ability to mix and match guys. And I think over the last 2 weeks, we started to kind of script that in the way we approached our pitching and our innings because we had the ability playing and playing weaker teams, frankly, and teams that we knew that we should sweep, and we're going to have to if we're going to be where we are right now. And we were able to do that on a script. And in baseball, that rarely happens, especially at the college baseball level. Rarely you can go through the last 2 weeks and then the conference tournament throughout the postseason to get yourself ready for the road to Omaha by scripting how you're going to pitch and then to accomplish that feat. And I think that's probably the biggest success out of everything that's gone on, in the last month of the year.
We appreciate folks chiming in via Facebook and YouTube as we're live tonight with Coastal Carolina play-by-play voice Joe Katz. Joe, we have a question here from Johnny Gardner. He asked specifically regarding the Coastal Carolina Fairfield game, but just Friday in general, because unfortunately, Johnny Robertson said pre-show in our group text that the weather doesn't look promising for Friday. What light can you shed there?
Well, I mean, y'all live in Greenville. We live in the independent republic of Peter O'Ree County. And I would say this, and that's pretty solid right there, coming from a Joseph Anthony CATENACCI, by the way. I would think that southern drawl that I just gave you, I think the people in Pirate Nation and down in Teal Nation should appreciate that.
Very impressive. Very impressive.
That's what 20 years living in Wilmington and then Myrtle Beach does to you right there for a Yankee. How's that sound? But I mean, in terms of the weather, it could rain. It might not rain. 60%. That could be down the street, half a block from my house. It's pouring rain, and the others, so long as it's not 8 miles away. And who knows, that could change 3 times between now and then. So, and that was another thing that we discussed. I don't know how that goes, and maybe you guys could shed some light on that since y'all have been hosts plenty of times before. Do you get a choice as the host team to pick which time that you want to play on the Friday?
Yes,
we do, or you do, and because of that, and being burned by that at least once, if not more than once, Cliff Godwin, the last few times we've hosted, has elected to play the early game, at noon or 1 p.m. as opposed to 5 or 6. And he said, as much as I would love to play the late game, it just makes too much sense. And I believe in Pirate Nation. They're going to do what they need to do to get there and create the rowdy atmosphere. But just from a competitive standpoint, especially if weather comes into play, it makes too much sense to not play the early game. So have you heard any thoughts on that front from Coach Schnall? Joe, can you hear me? JR, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
We'll carry on for a moment. Joe, if you can hear us, I think Joe's having some technical difficulties. I see that he left the studio. We'll hopefully have Joe back with us here momentarily. But JR, the Pirates have been in a regional down in Conway before, back in 2008. Fond memories of the whipping we put on Alabama. Bama put one on us, and then we bounced back. TJ Hose pitched a gem against Columbia, and then after defeating the Lions to eliminate them, we bounced back with a huge victory against the Crimson Tide. And to some of the so-called antics or just things that you associate with the jungle in East Carolina baseball, the 3-up, 3-down routine, and all those sorts of things in 60 feet 6 inches meet, etc. The Crimson Tide faithful that were there in Conway did not take too kindly to those practices.
Not at all. Hey, since Joe can't hear us, I'll throw another stat out there. Since Coastal won the College World Series in 2016, they have never won a regional since. They've been in 5 of them, even hosted 2 in Conway, but they're 0 for 5. So we'll see if that continues. I wouldn't say that if he could hear us, though. Right.
The year they won it all, they came out of Raleigh.
Yep.
And then what? And you said the Super was it Baton Rouge?
I'm not sure about that.
I'm trying to remember. Maybe I know Stony Brook was Baton Rouge back in the day when they and Kent State that year that both the Seawolves and Golden Flashes, excuse me, made it to Omaha, but can't recall for sure
Well,
about
that's the difference,
Coastal.
Bubba. I
I'm
have to
sorry.
look stuff up. You can just recall stuff from the top of your head, so I don't
I
have
think
that.
that was 2016 that Coastal won it all.
It was. It definitely was. And then they went back in 18, and they haven't won one since.
But
So I think Washington won in 18, and that was in Conway. And then in 19 they were in Atlanta, and Auburn won it. And then in 22 they were in Greenville, and the Pirates won it. 23 they were in Conway again, and Duke won it. And then 24 they were at Clemson, and Clemson.
right.
Yeah.
Well, JR, we have Joe Katz back with us.
Oh, okay.
Joe,
Sorry
a
about
couple
that.
more things and we'll get you out of here. We appreciate you being so generous with your time here on a Wednesday night as we get ready for the Conway Regional. Have had some questions on social media. Folks who have purchased the standing room only /berm tickets there at Springbrook Stadium. What light can you shed as far as things that are permissible to be brought into Springbrook Stadium, and also any suggestions regarding parking, tailgating, things of that nature would be much appreciated as well.
Well, things that I can bring in the stadium, or things the fans can bring in the stadium?
Things the fans can bring in the stadium, because of course in the jungle you can bring in a lawn chair, but I've seen that's not the case at Springbrook.
No lawn chairs. Beach blankets. I want to say it's clear bag policy within a certain size. I don't know the exact dimensions, but all that stuff is available on the website, goccusports.com. And if they don't, if you can't,
Are you there, Bubba? Oh boy. Can anybody hear?
JR, are you still there?
Yeah, I don't even know. Am I on?
Yeah, no problem. Joe's having some technical difficulties. Then I spoke up, but in my haste, I failed to unmute myself with an amateur moment there. But really appreciate Joe's time tonight. But as Joe was saying, go to ccusports.com for that list of items that are permissible to bring into Springbrook Stadium. Clear bag policy, that's pretty standard no matter where you go now. In Collegiate Facilities Pro, you name it, you can expect a clear bag policy. And then, as he said, you can bring blankets and towels, but no lawn chairs are able to be brought into the ballpark. JR, do you have anything before we wrap up this
Not at
edition
all.
of the show and get out of here?
No, just relay to Joe that I enjoyed that, and thank you for his time.
Yeah, no doubt, and definitely will. Folks, if you've not heard our conversation with Jeff Cardozo, former Florida Gators pitcher and current play-by-play voice, he also spent time as the color analyst prior to taking over the reins as the play-by-play voice of Florida Gators baseball. We caught up with him earlier on Wednesday, about a 30-minute conversation, some excellent light on the Gators, and just some very good information to get you ready for Friday's matchup between East Carolina and Florida. But that will do it for this edition of On Deck. We'll try to have a show probably on Thursday, perhaps. Have spoken with the SID at Fairfield and trying to get either the head coach or the assistant on the program to preview the Stags. But for Johnny Stats, also Joe Katz, the play-by-play voice of the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers, I'm Bubba Rosenbaum. You've been watching and listening to Jungle Tales, a Pirate Baseball podcast, and on deck as we get you ready for this weekend's Conway Regional. Be sure to follow us on social media at Jungle Tales Pod on Instagram and X, as well as YouTube. Like, follow, comment, and subscribe. We'll talk to you soon here on Jungle Tales, and as always, go Pirates.